Yeah, so me and I don't know, we just weren't seeing eye to eye, and kind of felt a little abandoned from them. So since it was some funny business going on, so they wind up not submitting the music.
In 2003, a young woman from East Harlem shook the world with one unforgettable sound. Ooh, 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 that was Lumidee. If you remember Lumidee, you need to watch this because fans are shocked that behind the hit, there were intense label pressures, a Rush debut album, and rumors of conflicts with DJ Tedsmooth and Nina Sky.
People get jerked on their first deals. I did. I was signed to Ted, but it was like, I didn't care. I wanted to keep it moving after that because we did have a friendship, but it just got ugly. It got really ugly because it got to the point like, I just couldn't even ask questions.
Fans have so far questioned her vocals and her sudden disappearance from US charts.
I mean, long story short, like, it was weird. It was a weird situation with me and my production company. So we wind up getting dropped because we didn't submit more music, right?
Few knew about her rheumatoid arthritis, family struggles, or the personal battles that shaped her journey and resilience.
Spoken about having arthritis
Yes.
and how that's impacted
Yes.
your career.
Yes.
And I just wanted to
Yes.
ask advice that you had for
Yes.
other young people that maybe are struggling with that.
I would say tackle it early, try the different medications.
Now, here's the full story of Lumidee. Lumidee Cedeno grew up in the heart of East Harlem, New York City. Her Puerto Rican heritage was a big part of who she was. The music, the rhythm, the pride of her neighborhood. But life wasn't easy. Her father passed away in 1995 when she was just a little girl. Not long after, her mother spent years in and out of prison. That left Lumidee and her siblings to be raised by their grandparents.
When it comes to your brand, Lumidee, I immediately think of the slogan, Queen of Spanish Harlem.
She's spoken in interviews about how those years shaped her. A young girl trying to find her voice in a crowded, sometimes rough environment. She didn't have much, but she had rhythm and melody. By 12, she was already writing songs and rapping. But then, another challenge came her way.
So, and I was freestyling in school, in junior high school, things like that, like battling.
Wait, were you? I don't know.
Yeah, listen, I was a tomboy.
At just 14, Lumidee was hit with pain she couldn't explain. Her joints swelled, walking became difficult, and simple tasks felt impossible. At first, doctors thought it was lupus. Later, she was properly diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, a chronic disease that attacks the joints. It's rare for someone so young to get it. And for Lumidee, it changed everything.
I also want to talk to you about, on a bit more of a serious note,
Okay.
that you've spoken about having arthritis
Yes.
and how that's impacted
Yes.
your career.
Yes.
The pain was so bad she had to be homeschooled for a while. She couldn't dance like the other kids. Sometimes she couldn't even move her arms or legs without help. By 17, the damage was so serious she needed a hip replacement. Most people would have given up, but she didn't. In an interview years later, Lumidee called her condition her badge of honor. She said it forced her to fight harder for everything she wanted. It's part of why her music feels real. She was singing through struggle, not fantasy. Growing up surrounded by loss, pain, and instability could have broken her spirit, but instead, it made her sharper. While other teens were hanging out after school, Lumidee was in her room, practicing lyrics, humming melodies, and dreaming about stages she hadn't yet seen. Her voice stood out. It was deep, raw, and emotional, the kind that could make even a simple hook sound soulful. People in her neighborhood started to notice. Local producers heard about her, and soon she was working with a Harlem DJ named Tedsmooth. That connection would change her life.
Well, it was at the time, right? I was signed to a DJ, and he's from my neighborhood.
Tedsmooth had been producing records for local acts, but when he met Lumidee, he saw something different. Together, they recorded a song that would carry her from Harlem block parties to global charts. No one knew it yet, but a hit was brewing.
You know, it felt right, and the DJ I was signed to at the time, that he messed with it, and he just added a little more clap. So that's why he added a little things around it to make it more original.
For Lumidee, music became more than a dream. It was her escape from everything she'd lost. Her health might have slowed her body, but it couldn't touch her hunger, and by the time she turned 18, she was about to prove that nothing could keep her down. When Lumidee finally started recording music after high school, she wasn't chasing fame, she was just doing what came naturally. She had grown up surrounded by music and rhythm, so stepping into a studio felt like home. That's where she met DJ Tedsmooth, a Harlem producer who was known for giving neighborhood talent a chance. He liked her voice. It wasn't the usual R&B sound. It was rough, emotional, and a little different. Together, they started experimenting with beats and hooks. One day, they stumbled on something magic. Tedsmooth flipped a dancehall rhythm, the Diwali rhythm, the same beat Sean Paul later used for Get Busy. Lumidee freestyled over it, humming that ooh, hook. Nobody in the room realized they had just made the song that would take over the world.
He puts the Uchiwali beat on. Remember the Nas Uchiwali beat?
Yeah.
Beat at that time.
They released it independently through a small Harlem label called Straight Face. But word spread fast. DJs started spinning it in clubs across New York and then other cities.
People just started asking for it in the club, and it caught its buzz. So kind of got this street buzz first, you know? And so this is why I feel like the momentum of Never Leave You was built up already from the club scene.
By the time Universal Records heard about it, the song was already buzzing everywhere. Within weeks, Lumidee was signed to a major deal. In the summer of 2003, Never Leave You, Oooh hit radio stations nationwide. The song exploded. It climbed all the way to number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 2 in the UK. For a girl who was barely out of high school, it was unreal. Her face was suddenly everywhere, on the TV, magazines, award shows. But behind all the excitement, there was pressure. She went from recording songs in her neighborhood to dealing with executives who wanted an album right away. She didn't have years of experience or a big catalog of music. Still, the label wanted to strike while the hit was hot. In interviews later, Lumidee admitted that her debut album, Almost Famous, came together way too fast. She said, "The album was basically the first songs I'd ever written and recorded. There wasn't time to sit and grow. Universal wanted to release something, anything, to ride the wave of her success."
I managed to get licensing deals, get other deals, and I managed to, in moving that same way, I landed a whole nother record deal, you know, and this is what got me my second album.
The album dropped in June 2003. While Never Leave You was a monster hit, the rest of the project didn't connect the same way. Critics gave it mixed reviews, calling it rushed and uneven. Some fans loved her sound. Others thought she wasn't ready yet. Still, Lumidee was everywhere that summer, performing on BET, MTV, and even overseas. For a moment, it seemed like she was about to become a major name in R&B. She had the look, the charisma, and a sound that mixed hip-hop, reggae, and soul. But then, things started to slow down just as quickly as they took off. After her big hit faded from the charts, there wasn't another song to keep the momentum going. The label didn't seem to have a long-term plan for her. In a few months, the spotlight shifted to other rising stars.
So since it was some funny business going on, so they wind up not submitting the music and thinking they could submit other artists.
For Lumidee, it must have been confusing. One day you're hearing your voice everywhere. The next, it's quiet. Still, she didn't quit. Even as critics called her a one-hit wonder, she knew her story wasn't finished. Her breakthrough had changed her life, but it also set her up for something she didn't see coming, a hard fall. What followed was years of being misunderstood, criticized, and fighting to prove she was more than that one hit. After the wild success of Never Leave You, Lumidee should have been celebrating. But instead of enjoying the moment, she got pulled into the chaos of the music business. Everyone wanted more hits, and they wanted them fast. The label didn't want to wait for her to develop or figure out her next move. They rushed her straight into album mode. In her own words, she said, "The album was basically the first songs I'd ever written and recorded. That says it all. Almost Famous wasn't planned, it was thrown together in a matter of weeks." Universal Records saw the numbers coming in from Never Leave You and wanted to cash in. For Lumidee, it was exciting but overwhelming. When Almost Famous dropped, fans expected a full project that would match the energy of her hit. But that's where things got complicated. The album had a few bright moments, but it didn't have another single that could compete with Never Leave You. The reviews weren't kind. Critics called it rushed, uneven, and said it didn't show who she really was as an artist.
Whatever, you know, or it's just crazy. Like, people don't know my face, they don't know me yet, and I'm not all the way there. Like, the song is big, but I'm not yet, you know, so basically it's Almost Famous.
Still, the album sold over 270,000 copies in the US, not bad for a debut. But the label wanted millions. In the early 2000s, R&B and hip-hop were packed with stars like Beyoncé, Ashanti, Tiara, Alicia Keys, and Lumidee was the new kid trying to find her space. Without a second hit, the industry started losing interest fast.
The record is perfect as it is. It's authentic, all right?
Yeah.
It felt, like I said earlier, a Days of Love. And I think it stood out in a time when artists like Beyonce, Monica, Alicia Keys, Sean Paul were dominating the charts.
Around that time, fans online started asking questions. Why didn't Lumidee blow up? What happened to her? Threads on fan forums and blogs were full of people wondering if she quit music. Others were less kind. They criticized her singing voice, saying she sounded off-key or lacked range. Some claimed the beat carried the song more than her vocals. That kind of talk can hurt, especially for someone who came up the hard way. But Lumidee didn't clap back or disappear right away. She kept performing, doing shows overseas, and trying to keep her career alive while her label moved on to other artists. The truth is, the industry can be brutal. Once you have a hit, you're expected to keep topping it, and if you can't, they move on. The same people who cheer for you on Monday can forget you by Friday. Behind the scenes, Lumidee was also dealing with her health. Living with rheumatoid arthritis meant she had to manage pain and fatigue while trying to keep up with the demanding lifestyle of an artist, long flights, photo shoots, and endless interviews. She had already proven she could fight through pain, but the combination of health struggles, label pressure, and public criticism took a toll. By 2004, her presence on US radio had faded. Never Leave You was still loved, but people were already treating her like a one-hit wonder.
It was too big too soon. It would have been better to kind of build to that, you know, but to come out so big so soon, that's why you get labeled something like that. Like, how you gonna top that one? Of course, they're gonna call you a one-hit wonder.
That label, one-hit wonder, can feel like a curse. It follows you everywhere, even when you're still working and making music. Lumidee knew she had more to offer, but the industry had already made up its mind. Still, she refused to walk away. Instead of chasing validation in the US, she started looking elsewhere. She realized that if the American music world wasn't going to give her a chance, she'd find places that would. And that's exactly what she did. She packed her bags, went overseas, and started a new chapter that most people back home never even heard about. When the US lights started to dim, most fans assumed Lumidee had just vanished. One minute she was all over the radio with Never Leave You, ooh. And the next, silence. No big follow-up single, no major appearances, no tabloid drama, just gone. But the truth is, she didn't disappear. She just took her talent somewhere. The noise was a little kinder.
I think this is the first real show I've done in London, and I came out in 2003.
By 2005, Lumidee had learned a hard lesson about the music business, the same one that humbles so many young artists. A hit can open every door, but if your label doesn't know what to do next, those same doors close fast. Her debut album, Almost Famous, had been rushed out to ride the wave, and once that wave crashed, the momentum went with it. In interviews, she later admitted the songs were mostly her earliest recordings, never meant to define her career. So when the US industry moved on, Lumidee decided to move on, too literally. She packed up her sound, her style, and her energy, and took it to Europe. Suddenly, she was performing in Germany, the Netherlands, and Spain, places that still played her records in clubs and on local radio. Her mix of R&B, hip-hop, and a touch of Latin rhythm resonated in ways that surprised even her. While American audiences were chasing the next big thing, European fans were embracing Lumidee for who she already was.
These things, because like if they don't know, then they'd be like, I wonder how she's doing like those random like little things that.
And she wasn't just touring, she was recording, collaborating, experimenting. In 2007, she released Unexpected, an album that leaned more into her Caribbean roots. It didn't top the Billboard charts, but it built a loyal following overseas. For Lumidee, it was never about chasing another US hit. It was about creating music on her own terms. She had tasted both the spotlight and the shadows, and now she wanted something more sustainable to control. Fans back home, meanwhile, didn't see all this. To the American public, she looked like another one-hit wonder who'd faded out. But if you were in Europe and Middle East in those years, you might have caught her on festival stages, in local interviews, or on collaborations with international DJs. She was working just not where the mainstream press was watching.
Yes, we're here. Just got here. Kind of exhausted. I know I look beat and crazy, and yeah, we're about to get it popping. We in Dubai.
That's the funny thing about fame. It's so tied to visibility that once you step off the American radar, people assume you've stopped existing. But Lumidee didn't vanish. She evolved quietly, building a career that didn't need validation from the same industry that once boxed her in. In her words, I've always been in the studio, always been creating. The difference is, now it's on my own schedule. And decades later, when she released her third project, 1013, in 2021, it was a full circle moment. The little girl from Harlem who was once thrust into stardom overnight had survived the storm and was still standing, maybe not on every playlist, but definitely in her own lane.
Kind of just connected musically, and that's why we called it 1013, because that's my birthday, his birthday. You know, so he did most of the production on there, and I just was like, I wanted to be the adult me.
So no, Lumidee didn't disappear. She just took a different route, one that kept her peace intact while she kept doing what she loved, even if fewer people were watching. By the time the 2010s rolled in, Lumidee had officially earned herself a new nickname online, the Forgotten R&B Girl. Every few months, a tweet or meme would pop up asking, whatever happened to the girl who sang, Oooh? Some even claimed she quit music completely or had personal problems that drove her away. None of that was true. But when you step out of the American spotlight for too long, the internet tends to write its own story. Lumidee, on the other hand, wasn't caught up in proving anything. After spending years touring internationally, she came home to New York with a new mindset. She'd seen both sides, the fame and the fall, and understood how fast the music industry could chew you up. She'd also built a business sense, one that made her approach everything more independently. Instead of chasing a label deal, she focused on building her own lane.
I'm more ready for it now than I was then, you know, but things don't always come when you're ready, you know, so you got to take it as it comes. So
around 2012, she started teasing new music and dropped independent releases through her company, Logie Music Entertainment. The songs didn't explode like Never Leave You, but they showed growth. Deeper lyrics, smoother production, and a sound that blended her R&B roots with the Caribbean influences she picked up overseas. She wasn't trying to compete with the new wave of artists. She was making music for the people who never stopped listening. But of course, the rumors followed her everywhere. Some fans believed she fell out with producers from her debut era. Others said there was tension with Nina Sky or DJ Tedsmooth, names that came up in early 2000s collaborations and mixtape circles. In interviews, Lumidee never confirmed anything dramatic. She just hinted that not everyone who smiled in the studio was really in her corner. The music business had politics, and she learned that lesson early. Even through that, she stayed visible in her own way, popping up on smaller stages, college tours, and nostalgic R&B lineups. She'd perform Never Leave You, and the crowd would still go wild like it was 2003 again. That kind of love never faded, even if the mainstream did. Then came the social media era. Platforms like Instagram and TikTok slowly started reviving early 2000s nostalgia, and Lumidee's voice started trending again in edits and throwback challenges. Younger audiences who were babies when the song came out suddenly knew every ooh. And just like that, her name resurfaced, not through a comeback campaign, but through pure nostalgia. In 2021, Lumidee dropped 1013, her first album in years. The title came from her birthday, October 13th, symbolizing rebirth. It wasn't about chasing charts or headlines. It was about reclaiming her story. The project was personal, a reminder that she was still here, still writing, still creating. She said in one interview, "I've had highs and lows, but I never stopped. The world just stopped looking."
Kind of just connected musically, and that's why we called it 1013, because that's my birthday, his birthday. You know, so he did most of the production on there, and I just was like, I wanted to be the adult.
And that's exactly the legacy she built. Quiet, steady, and authentic. Lumidee might not have had a million headlines, but she outlasted the gossip, the rumors, and the industry noise. Her comeback wasn't loud. It was hers.